All right, Yo Gang, so the thing I feared the most about being a homeowner here has actually happened. As you can see, we're in the rainy season. I noticed this morning after I got up, the sump pump wasn't kicking on like it normally does. And so I came out here to the crawl space. I opened up the crawl space, and long story short, our crawl space was flooded because the sump pump wasn't working. I went in, I waded in. It was probably hip deep in water. And I shook the pipe, and then it kicked on, as you can see. And it's been running now for about 40 minutes. Sometimes this sump pump gets out of alignment, out of kilter, and just doesn't work. So you need to jiggle it, and then it works. That happens very, very rarely. But it just so happened that it happened overnight. It's just not good. So I'm checking in on, let me put you down here while I move this cover. Take a look. When I discovered this, it was up to about there. And look, hot water heater has been submerged. My real hope is that the hot water heater will be okay. I guess we'll see. This is not what I wanted to see. And my sincere hope is that this sump pump continues working. I'll update you guys. It's dropped, the water level's dropped quite a bit, but it's still pretty high. There's a lot of gallons left to move. Not good. All right, guys, so it's maybe 3 hours since I last spoke to you. For you is just a few seconds ago. It looks like the basement is completely drained out and the sump pump is working on schedule, pumping out water every 30 seconds or so, the way it normally does, the way it should. So far, the hot water in our house continues to work the way it should. The fear obviously is that something got burnt out. It's an electric water heater. The fear is that some sort of electrical panel or wiring in there got burnt out. The wiring that goes down to the heating elements. But so far we're still getting piping hot water. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I may have to call some sort of electrician or plumber or something to check on that. I don't know if there's danger in the hot water heater and using the hot water heater after it's been wet. But like I said, it's still working just fine, heating up our water. This whole situation could have been a lot worse. I could have discovered it later on in the day after it had gotten much higher. It never touched the ducting underneath the house. The water level never got that high. There's a couple other electrical panels down there that it never touched. The only thing that got touched was our water heater. And right now my fingers are crossed that it continues to work, but we're obviously going to keep an eye on it to make sure that it's safe to use and that it continues to work. We just got it replaced before we moved in here. Same thing with that sump pump. That was brand new when we moved in, and I gotta say that sump pump was off just a tiny bit. That's all it took for it to stop operating the way it should. And then obviously water fills up very quickly down there. But once I kind of tweaked it and gave it the old Fonzie hit maneuver, it started working just fine, and it ran for about 3 hours straight, pumping out the basement, and now it's running every 30 seconds or so, kicking it out. I will have to do something down there to get that crawl space dried out. But the big concern, like I said, is that water heater. We'll take it from there. I'm afraid I'm going to be paranoid about this anytime that it rains, and I'll probably be going out and checking the sump pump to make sure that it's working, or at least sitting there for a minute to make sure that the pump is pushing out water every 30 seconds to 2 minutes or whatever, depending on how bad it's raining. So I'll be paranoid. It'll be hard for me to sleep at night on really rainy nights. So I'm going to have to figure out something to do with that sump pump, man, because that's not good when your sump pump has one minor little failure like that, where you just have to jiggle it, fix it. you're always going to be up in your head wondering if it's working right now or if I should go check it. That's not ideal. That's not a good thing. You don't want to live with that too long. In the meantime, part of living in East Tennessee is we get really, really rainy seasons, February and March, sometimes into April, and it's just par for the course. I mean, here's our front pasture. Look, you can see a river that's been forming here. I can probably zoom in on it. That's just something that happens here. The lowest parts of our land just get filled up with water, and these little divots fill up with kind of makeshift streams and water features, which, for what it's worth, the house is actually on one of the highest parts of the land, so it could be a lot worse. Our house isn't down there in the divot. Our house is up on kind of a hill. Same with Mom and Dad's house over here. They're actually, I think, a little bit higher than we are. I don't even think they need a sump pump for their crawl space because the water naturally flows out. But it's just par for the course living here, and unfortunately, that sump pump and the situation in our crawl space, we just need to figure out something to do with that because it's not good. You can't live always on edge when it's raining, wondering if your sump pump's going to work. I need to figure out something else for that situation. Well, thanks for hanging out with me today, yo folks. As you can see, things aren't always fun, breezy, sunny, and easy on the homestead. Sometimes you run into trouble. Sometimes you run into trouble that's maybe a little tough to figure out. We could have been in much worse shape than we are. I'm glad I discovered the flooded basement when I did, and I'm glad that the sump pump was, all it needed was a little jiggle and it started working. And not only started working, but working for 3 hours straight to empty that basement. What we do next with the water heater and getting that place dried out down there, I'll have to figure out. But again, it could have been a lot worse. So thanks for hanging out with me on this fun episode. And until we see you next time, remember, as always, slowly, slowly.